Just going to look at some keywords associated with probability in this video. So an experiment is a repeatable process which gives a number of outcomes. So for example, the experiment could be rolling a dice 1,000 times to see what outcomes you get from the dice. So you could get a number between 1 and 6. An event is a collection of one or more outcomes. So we could be talking about looking at a dice. If we're rolling a dice once, we could be talking about the event being what is the probability of getting a 6, for example, 1/6. It could, however, if we're looking at more outcomes, if we're rolling the dice twice, we could be looking at what is the probability of getting 2 6s, so a 6 on the first one and a 6 on the second one. Or we could be looking at a situation where we get a 5 and a 6. So that's an event, but this time we've got two different bits we're looking at. A sample space is a set of all possible outcomes. So if we're drawing a sample space diagram, we're listing all the possible outcomes that could happen. So if we're looking at a simple one, a coin, we could get a head or a tail. If we flip it twice, well, we could have 2 heads, we could get 2 tails, we could get a head the first time, a tail the second time, or we could get a tail the first time and a head the second time. So that's all the possible outcomes. Events are always denoted with capital letters. So we're always also going to look at things to do with probability of various things happening. Now when you watch the Venn diagram video, you'll notice that we look at a couple of symbols. We've got this symbol which is and, this symbol which is or, and that symbol which is not. And it would raise that little dash. And to remember that all probabilities are in the range between 0 and 1. And we only talk about probabilities as either a fraction or as a decimal in statistics 1. And remember, if something's definitely not going to happen and it's impossible, it's a 0 probability. If it's definitely going to happen, it's certain, it's a probability of 1. So hopefully them key terms are going to be used a lot through S1. And you're going to get used to hearing them. So we're going to be using the word events a lot, and, ors, not notation quite a lot, especially when looking at probabilities. So let's just have a look at a sample space diagram here and then use it to calculate through probabilities. So it says 2 fair spinners each have 5 faces numbered 1 to 5. The 2 spinners are spun together and their scores are added. Find the following. Get the total. So getting a total of 7, getting a number less than 4, and getting a 9 or more. So the first thing to do is to set up your sample space diagram. So you want to put your 2 variables, so one variable and your second variable, and then list all the possible outcomes on the first thing. So this is the first spinner and this is the second spinner. Now we're told we're adding the 2 together, so if we fill it in, so 1 and 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to pause the video because you don't need to watch me adding up. Right, now we can use our sample space diagram to help us calculate the probabilities asked. So we're first asked to find the probability of getting a 7. So if we look in our sample space diagram, we'll notice that there's 4 occasions that we can get a 7. And this is out of the total number of possible outcomes that we can have. So there's 20 possible available, and we're looking at 4. So the probability is 4 out of 20. Secondly, we're asked the probability of getting a number less than 4. Please notice the word less. You'll see in a minute, when they want you to include the value, it'll say 9 or more. So this one says less than 4. So we're only looking at numbers less than 4, which is 2, 3, and 3, which is 3 out of the possible 20. And finally, 9 or more is the 2 9s plus the 10. So that's yet again 3 out of a possible 20. So just keep reminding yourself of these key terms. The event is a collection of one or more outcomes, so the probability of something happening.